Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered if we're alone? What if I told you that one day someone from out there finally came down? And what if their message wasn't hello or we come in peace? What if they said something that would change everything we thought we knew about our own planet? This is the story of the day Earth discovered it was never truly ours. Dr. Emma Carson had spent 15 years studying the night sky from the Palmer Observatory in Arizona. At 42 years old, she was one of the top astronomers in the country, known for her work tracking distant galaxies. Her days followed a simple pattern: morning coffee, afternoon research, and long nights watching the stars through massive telescopes. The observatory sat on top of Red Mesa, far from any city lights. Emma shared the facility with 3 other scientists: Dr. Marcus Hayes, who studied planets, Jennifer Walsh, a young graduate student, and Tom Bradley, their technician who kept all the equipment running. Emma lived in a small apartment near the observatory. She had a daughter named Lily who was 10 years old. Lily lived with Emma's ex-husband, David, in Phoenix, but visited every other weekend. Emma's life revolved around 2 things: her daughter and her work. On the morning of June 15th, Emma woke up like any other day. She made breakfast, checked her emails, and drove up to the observatory. The Arizona sun was already hot, even at 7 in the morning. The desert stretched out in every direction, empty and quiet. "Morning, Emma," Tom called out when she arrived. He was fixing one of the cooling systems outside. "That main telescope has been acting funny. Keeps picking up some weird signal." "What kind of signal?" Emma asked, setting down her coffee. "No idea. Started about 3 days ago. Comes and goes. Marcus thinks it's just interference from a satellite." Emma headed inside to her office. The observatory was cool and dark, the walls covered with star charts and photographs of distant nebulas. She pulled up the data from the past few days on her computer. Tom was right. There was a signal. It appeared every night around midnight, lasted for exactly 7 minutes, then disappeared. The pattern was too regular to be random, but it didn't match any known satellite frequency. "Jennifer, can you come look at this?" Emma called out. The young graduate student hurried over, her blonde ponytail swinging. Jennifer was 24, fresh out of graduate school, and eager to prove herself. She leaned over Emma's shoulder and studied the screen. "That's really strange," Jennifer said. "The signal is coming from... Wait, that can't be right. What? According to this, it's coming inside our solar system, really close, like maybe a few thousand miles above Earth." Emma's heart started beating faster. In 15 years of studying space, she'd never seen anything like this. She picked up the phone and called Marcus. Dr. Marcus Hayes was 56, tall and thin with gray hair. He'd been at the observatory longer than anyone. When he arrived at Emma's office, he looked annoyed. "This better be good. I was in the middle of analyzing data from Jupiter's moons." Emma showed him the signal. Marcus's annoyed expression slowly changed to confusion, then concern. "Run a diagnostic on all the equipment," he said quietly. "Make sure nothing's broken." They spent the next 4 hours checking every piece of equipment in the observatory. Everything was working perfectly. The signal was real. That night, the team gathered in the main observation room. The huge telescope pointed up at the stars through the open dome in the ceiling. Emma sat at the computer station, her hands shaking slightly as she typed. "The signal should appear in 10 minutes, she said, looking at the clock. It was 11:50 p.m. The room was silent except for the hum of computers. Tom stood by the door, arms crossed. Jennifer kept checking her phone nervously. Marcus paced back and forth, his footsteps echoing on the tile floor. At exactly midnight, the signal appeared again. This time, it was stronger, much stronger. "It's getting closer," Jennifer whispered, staring at her screen. "Whatever this is, it's moving toward Earth." Emma's fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to track the source. The numbers on the screen didn't make sense. The object, if it was an object, was moving faster than any known spacecraft, faster than anything humans had ever built. "How fast is it going?" Marcus asked, leaning over her shoulder. "About 50,000 miles per hour, and it's slowing down." "Slowing down?" Tom stepped closer. "Why would it slow down?" Emma looked up at them, her face pale in the glow of the computer screen. "Because it's here. It's entering Earth's atmosphere right now." They all rushed to the windows. Outside, the desert stretched out under a blanket of stars. For a moment, nothing happened. Then they saw it. A light appeared in the northern sky, not like a shooting star or a plane. This light was steady and bright, moving slowly across the darkness. It was blue-white, almost like looking at a welding torch from far away. "Oh my God," Jennifer breathed. The light grew bigger, closer. It wasn't falling like a meteor. It was moving with purpose, like something under control. The light began to descend, heading for the desert about 5 miles from the observatory. Emma grabbed the emergency radio they used to contact the nearby town of Redfield. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. "This is Palmer Observatory calling Redfield. We have an unidentified object landing in the desert. I repeat, unidentified object landing approximately 5 miles north of our position." Static crackled on the radio. Then a sleepy voice answered. It was Sheriff Dan Morgan, who ran the small police station in Redfield. "Emma, is this a joke? It's midnight."
"I'm not joking, Dan. Something just came down from space. We watched it on our equipment. It's real." The light touched down in the desert. Even from 5 miles away, they could see it clearly, a bright blue glow against the dark sand. Marcus was already heading for the door. "We need to get out there." "Are you crazy?" Tom blocked his path. "We don't know what that is." "Exactly, we don't know. And we're scientists. This is what we do." Emma's mind was racing. Every instinct told her to call the military, NASA, someone with authority. But another part of her, the scientist part, wanted to see it first. Whatever had just landed in the Arizona desert had traveled across space to get here, and they were the ones who had detected it. "We go together," Emma said firmly. "All of us. We take the van, we keep our distance, and if anything seems dangerous, we leave immediately." They piled into the observatory's old white van. Tom drove, heading down the narrow dirt road that led into the desert. The blue light glowed ahead of them like a beacon. As they got closer, Emma could make out a shape. It wasn't a spaceship like in the movies, no flying saucer or rocket. It looked more like a sphere, about 30 feet across, sitting on the sand. The blue light came from inside it, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Tom stopped the van about 200 yards away and turned off the engine. They all sat there staring. "Now what?" Jennifer whispered. Before anyone could answer, something changed. The blue light flickered once, twice, then started to dim. A section of the sphere's surface began to move, opening like a door. Emma's breath caught in her throat. This was really happening. After all these years of searching the stars, something had finally come to Earth, and it was about to step out. If this is helping, hit subscribe. I share stories like this every week. A figure emerged from the sphere. It walked on 2 legs like a human, but that's where the similarity ended. The being was tall, maybe 7 feet, with smooth, pale gray skin that seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight. Its body was thin, almost fragile-looking, with long arms that reached past where knees would be. The head was larger than a human's, with huge dark eyes that took up most of the face. Emma's felt Jennifer grab her arm. "Is this real?" the young woman whispered. The alien stood completely still, looking at the van. It didn't seem scared or aggressive. It just watched them with those enormous eyes. Slowly, Marcus opened the van door. "Wait!" Tom started, but Marcus was already stepping out. "We mean no harm," Marcus called out, his voice shaking slightly. "We are scientists, peaceful. Do you understand?" The alien tilted its head, studying Marcus. Then it raised one long arm and pointed at Emma. Emma's heart nearly stopped. "Why is it pointing at me?" "Maybe it wants you to come out too," Marcus said, not taking his eyes off the being. Against every survival instinct screaming in her head, Emma opened her door and stepped onto the desert sand. The night air was cool. The alien lowered its arm. For a long moment, nothing happened. The alien just stood there, 20 feet away, watching them. Then it opened its mouth, if you could call it a mouth, and spoke. The sound wasn't like any language Emma had ever heard. It was musical, like wind chimes mixed with whale songs. But then something impossible happened. A voice appeared inside Emma's mind. Not a sound she heard with her ears, but thoughts that formed in her mind as clearly as her own. "You are the ones who called." Emma stumbled backward. Marcus caught her arm to steady her. Did you hear that?" she gasped. "I heard it, but its mouth didn't move with the words." Jennifer and Tom had gotten out of the van now, standing close together. The alien looked at each of them in turn. "We detected your signal, your search for others. I have come in response." Marcus found his voice first. You're from another planet?" "Yes, my world is far from here. Farther than your instruments can see." Emma's scientific training kicked in despite her shock. "Your physics are incomplete. You understand so little of how the universe truly works." Tom stepped forward, his jaw set. "Why are you here? What do you want?" The alien was quiet for a moment. When it spoke again, the words sent chills down Emma's spine. "I came to warn you, to tell you the truth about this planet. Earth was never meant for humans." "What?" Jennifer's voice cracked. "What does that mean?" "Your species did not evolve here naturally. You were placed here, and the ones who placed you are coming back." Emma felt like the ground was tilting under her feet. "That's impossible. We have fossil records going back millions of years. Evolution, DNA evidence. All real, but not the full story. Your species was moved here from another world 75,000 years ago, placed on this planet as part of an experiment." Marcus shook his head violently. No, that's not possible. Every piece of evidence we have shows humans evolved on Earth."
"You evolved elsewhere," the alien said patiently. "Then you were brought here as primitive beings and allowed to develop. This planet was chosen because it was empty, safe, a good place for your kind to grow without interference." "By who?" Emma demanded. "Who would do that?" "The architects, a very old species that travels between worlds. They collect promising life forms and move them to better planets, sometimes to save them from dying worlds, sometimes as experiments to see how they adapt." Tom laughed, but it sounded hysterical. "This is insane. You're telling us aliens moved humans to Earth like we're plants in a garden?" "Essentially, yes." Sheriff Dan Morgan's patrol car came roaring up the desert road, lights flashing. He jumped out, his hand on his gun holster. Dan was in his 50s, with a thick gray mustache and a belly that hung over his belt. "What in the hell is going on out here?" he shouted. Then he saw the alien and froze mid-step. His hand fell away from his gun. Sweet Jesus! "Dan, stay calm," Emma called out. "It's been peaceful. It's talking to us." "Talking? How?" "In our minds," Marcus said. "I know how it sounds." The alien turned its attention to Dan. "You are a protector. Good. You will need to protect your people." "Protect them from what?" Dan asked.
his voice barely a whisper. "From the architects. They are returning to Earth. They have been monitoring your progress for thousands of years, and they have decided it is time to reclaim their experiment." Emma's mind was reeling. Reclaim? What does that mean? "They will arrive in 30 days, the alien said. "They will evaluate whether humanity should remain on Earth or be removed." "Removed?" Jennifer's voice was high and scared. "Removed where?" "That depends on their judgment. If they believe you have developed well, they may leave you alone. If they believe you have failed or are damaging the planet, they will take you elsewhere or eliminate you entirely." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus stepped closer to the alien, his scientific skepticism fighting with the evidence in front of his eyes. "How do we know you're telling the truth? This could be some kind of hoax, or you could be lying." "I have no reason to lie. I am not from the architect's species. I am from a world they visited long ago. My people were also moved, placed on a new planet, but we were lucky. The architects deemed us successful and left us alone. When we developed space travel, we learned about others who were not so fortunate." "Why are you telling us this?" Emma asked. "Why come here to warn us?" "Because the architects do not announce their arrival. They simply come, judge, and act. Your species deserves a chance to prepare, to show them you are worth keeping." Dan had his radio in his hand. "I need to call this in, the government, the military." "No," the alien's voice was sharp in their minds. "If your governments know, they will panic. They will try to weaponize, to prepare for war. The architects cannot be fought with weapons. Violence will only guarantee your failure." "Then what are we supposed to do?" Tom demanded. "Just wait for these aliens to show up and decide if we live or die?" "You must prove you are worthy stewards of this world. Show them you can live in harmony with your planet and each other. The architects value balance, wisdom, and peace above all else." Emma looked around at the desert, thinking about her daughter in Phoenix, about the billions of people living their lives with no idea their entire existence was about to be judged by beings from the stars. "Why Earth?" she asked quietly. "Out of all the planets, why put humans here?" Earth was perfect, rich in resources, stable climate, isolated from space traffic, a pristine world where a young species could thrive without outside interference. "And what do they think of us now?" Marcus asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. The alien was silent for a moment. "They are concerned. Your species has developed technology rapidly, but your wisdom has not kept pace. You war with each other. You damage your planet. You have nuclear weapons that could destroy all life here. From their perspective, you are children playing with fire in a house made of wood." Jennifer sat down hard on the sand, her face in her hands. 30 days, that's all we have? 30 days until they arrive, yes. I cannot stay long. My ship must leave before Earth's military satellites detect it. But I needed to deliver this warning. What should we do? Emma felt overwhelmed, lost. How do we even begin to prepare for something like this? Start with the truth, the alien said. Tell people what I have told you. Let humanity decide its own fate. The architects will test you in ways you cannot imagine. They will watch how you react to this news, how you treat each other in crisis, whether you choose cooperation or chaos. The alien began walking back toward its sphere. Wait, Emma called out. How will we know what they want? How do we communicate with them? The alien paused at the entrance to its ship. They will make their presence known. They will test you. Pass their tests, and Earth remains yours. Fail, and... They didn't finish the sentence. It didn't need to.
"One more thing," the alien said. "I am not the only one who knows about the architect's return. Others across the galaxy are watching to see what happens to Earth. Your species has reached a critical point. What you do in these 30 days will echo across the stars." "What's your name?" Jennifer asked suddenly. "We should at least know who warned us."
The alien seemed to consider this. "My species does not use names the way yours does, but you may call me Keeper. That is my role. I keep the knowledge of the architects and their ways." Keeper entered the sphere. The opening sealed behind it with a soft hiss. The blue light began to pulse again, growing brighter. "Everyone back in the van," Dan shouted. "Now!" They scrambled into the vehicle as the sphere began to lift off the ground. Sand swirled around it in a cloud. The blue light grew so bright they had to shield their eyes. Then, with a sound like thunder rolling backward, the sphere shot straight up into the sky and vanished among the stars. For a long time, nobody spoke. They just sat in the van, staring at the empty patch of desert where the sphere had been. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "We need to document everything, write down exactly what it said while it's fresh in our memories." "We need to tell people," Jennifer said. "The whole world needs to know." Dan shook his head slowly. "If we tell people aliens said Earth isn't really ours and some other aliens are coming to judge us in 30 days, they'll either panic or think we're crazy. Maybe both." Emma rubbed her face tiredly. "Keeper said we should tell the truth, that humanity deserves to know." "But will they believe us?" Tom asked. "We don't have any proof except our word. That ship is gone." Emma looked out at the stars. Somewhere up there, the architects were coming, and somewhere in Phoenix, her daughter was sleeping peacefully, unaware that everything she knew was about to change. "We have to try," Emma said firmly. "We have 30 days to prepare humanity for the biggest test we've ever faced. We can't waste a single one." The next morning, Sheriff Dan Morgan sat in his small office in Redfield, staring at his phone. The town had a population of 800 people, mostly ranchers and retirees. It was the kind of place where the biggest news was usually someone's cow getting loose on Main Street. How do you tell a town that aliens are real and humans don't actually belong on Earth? Emma, Marcus, Jennifer, and Tom had spent the whole night at the observatory, writing down everything they remembered from the encounter. Now they had 12 pages of detailed notes, but Dan was right, no proof except their word. Emma called her ex-husband David at 6 in the morning. "Emma, it's Saturday," David groaned. "Can this wait?" "No, I need you to bring Lily to the observatory today. Both of you. It's important." "What's going on?" "I can't explain over the phone. Please, David, trust me." There was a long pause. Despite their divorce 3 years ago, David knew Emma wasn't the type to exaggerate. "Okay, we'll drive up after breakfast." Emma hung up and looked at her team. They all looked exhausted, eyes red from lack of sleep, but there was something else in their expressions now: purpose. "We need a plan," Marcus said, pacing the observation room. "We can't just knock on doors and say aliens are coming." "Why not?" Jennifer challenged. "That's exactly what's happening." "Because people need evidence, context, a way to process this that doesn't send them into panic." Tom pulled up a news website on his computer. "Look at this. Nothing. No reports of strange lights, no military activity, no radar detection. It's like last night never happened." Emma thought about this. Keeper's ship moved too fast for normal tracking, and we're in the middle of nowhere. It's possible we were the only ones who saw it. "That makes our job harder," Marcus said. "We're asking people to believe an impossible story with zero evidence." "We have each other," Jennifer pointed out. 5 witnesses. That's more than most UFO sightings have." Dan's patrol car pulled up outside. He walked in looking grim, holding a newspaper from Phoenix. The headline read, "Unusual seismic activity detected in Arizona desert." Seismic activity? Emma grabbed the paper. There wasn't an earthquake. "Read the article," Dan said. "Scientists recorded strange vibrations around midnight right in this area. They're calling it an unexplained phenomenon. We weren't the only ones who noticed something." This changed things. It wasn't much proof, but it was something. Emma felt a small spark of hope. Maybe people would listen after all. David arrived around noon with Lily. Emma's daughter ran to hug her, blonde pigtails bouncing. "Dad said you had big news. Are we going on a trip?" Emma knelt down to Lily's level. "Not exactly, sweetheart. I need to tell you something important, something that might sound scary, but I need you to be brave." David stood behind Lily, arms crossed. "Emma, what is this about?" Emma looked up at him, then at Lily, then at her colleagues. How do you tell a 10-year-old that Earth's time might be running out? Last night we had a visitor from another planet. A real alien, like in movies? Yes, and it told us something we need everyone to know. She explained everything as simply as she could, watching Lily's expression change from excitement to confusion to fear. David's face went from skeptical to angry to pale. When she finished, he pulled Lily close. "You're serious," David said flatly. "You're actually serious." "Completely. Emma, if this is some kind of breakdown—"
"I'm not having a breakdown," Emma's voice rose. 5 of us saw it. 5 separate people. Dan Morgan, a sheriff, saw it. Marcus Hayes, who's published in every major science journal, saw it. Are we all crazy?" David looked at the others. Tom nodded. Jennifer nodded. Marcus nodded. Dan stood by the door, his hand on his belt. "This is real, David," Dan said quietly. "I don't understand it. I don't like it, but it's real." Lily tugged on her father's shirt. "Daddy, are the aliens going to take us away?" "No, baby. No one's taking us anywhere." But David's voice wavered with uncertainty. Emma hugged her daughter. "Keeper said we have a chance. If we show we're good, they'll leave us alone." "And if we don't?" David asked. No one answered. By mid-afternoon, word had spread through Redfield. Dan had told his deputies. The deputies told their families. Those families told neighbors. The observatory's phone rang constantly with calls from townspeople demanding to know if the rumors were true. Mayor Patricia Reeves showed up at 4 o'clock. She was 60 years old, tough as boot leather, and had run Redfield for 15 years. She walked into the observatory like she owned it. "I've got half the town in panic mode," she announced. "Betty Henderson is stockpiling canned food. The Martinez family is talking about driving to Mexico, and Father O'Brien is holding emergency prayer services at the church. Now I need someone to tell me straight. Is this real or is this mass hysteria?" Emma showed her the written documentation, played her the seismic activity recordings, showed her the telescope data from the signal they'd tracked. Patricia sat down heavily. "Lord have mercy." "We need to tell more people," Emma said. "Not just Redfield, the whole country, the whole world." "And how do you propose we do that? Call the news? They'll laugh us off the phone. Call the government? They'll lock us up for causing panic." Marcus had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "We use the internet. Post the information online. Let people decide for themselves." "That could backfire spectacularly," Patricia warned. "Internet's full of conspiracy theories and fake news. People might not take it seriously." "Or it might go viral," Jennifer said, "and then they'd have to take it seriously." Tom was already setting up a video camera. "We record everything, tell the whole story, upload it to every platform we can. At least then the information's out there." They spent the next 2 hours recording a video. Emma spoke directly to the camera, explaining what they'd seen and heard. Marcus backed her up with the scientific data. Dan vouched for the legitimacy as law enforcement. Jennifer showed the seismic readings. "We have 30 days, Emma said to the camera. 30 days to prove humanity deserves to stay on Earth. I know how crazy this sounds. Believe me, I'm a scientist, I know. But this is real, and we need to prepare." They uploaded the video to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every social media platform they could think of. Then they waited. The first hour, nothing happened. Then the views started climbing. 10 views, 50, 200. By midnight, they had 5,000 views. By Sunday morning, the video had over 1 million views. Emma woke up to her phone ringing nonstop. News organizations from around the world wanted interviews. The FBI was calling. NASA was calling. Someone claiming to be from the Pentagon was calling. But it wasn't all positive. The comments section under their video was a war zone. Half the people believed them and were terrified. The other half called them liars, attention seekers, or mentally ill. Scientists from major universities were publicly denouncing them as frauds. Religious leaders were divided, some calling it a test from God, others calling it blasphemy. Dr. Helen Wright from NASA Astrobiology Division appeared on morning news shows calling the Palmer Observatory team delusional and demanding they retract their dangerous hoax. "We're being destroyed," Jennifer said, scrolling through Twitter on Monday morning. "They're calling us everything from con artists to cult members." Marcus slammed his coffee cup down. "Of course they are. We're threatening every belief system humanity has. Religion says we were created by God. Science says we evolved here, and we're saying both are wrong." Emma's phone buzzed with a text from David. "Lily's school is asking questions. Kids are scared. Parents are angry. What have you done?" What had she done? Emma stared out the window at the Arizona desert, remembering Keeper's words. Let humanity decide its own fate. Well, humanity was deciding, and so far it was choosing denial and anger. Sheriff Dan burst into the observatory, his face flushed. "We've got a problem. Big problem. There are people gathering outside, protesters. They're saying you're causing mass panic and demanding you admit it's a hoax." Emma, Marcus, Jennifer, and Tom went outside. Sure enough, about 30 people stood at the observatory gates. Some held signs, "Stop the Lies," and "Mental Hospital, not Observatory." But there was another group, too, about 20 people holding different signs, "We Believe," and "Prepare for Contact." The two groups were shouting at each other. Dan's deputies were trying to keep them separated. "This is getting out of control," Marcus muttered. Mayor Patricia pushed through the crowd to reach them. "The governor's office called. They want you to hold a press conference tomorrow in Phoenix. They're sending state police to escort you." "A press conference?" Emma felt panic rising. "Patricia, I'm a scientist, not a spokesperson for alien contact." "Well, that's what you've become. Like it or not, you started this. Now you need to see it through." That night, Emma lay awake in her apartment. Through the window, she could see the protesters' campfires. They weren't leaving. Some believed, some didn't, but everyone was reacting. Maybe that was the point. Maybe Keeper wanted to see how humanity would handle the news. Were they passing the test or failing it? Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Global markets tumble amid alien claims. World leaders call for calm. 25 days left. The press conference in Phoenix was a disaster. The Arizona State Capitol building's main hall was packed with reporters from around the world. Emma stood at a podium with bright lights in her face and dozens of microphones pointed at her. Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, and Dan sat at a table beside her. Behind them, Governor James Holloway stood with his arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Emma began reading her prepared statement, explaining the encounter for what felt like the 100th time. Before she could finish, reporters started shouting questions. "Dr. Carson, do you have any physical evidence? Why should we believe 5 people in a desert over the entire scientific community? Is it true you've been under psychiatric evaluation?" That last question made Emma's blood boil. "No, I have not been under psychiatric evaluation, and I resent the implication that anyone who reports something extraordinary must be mentally ill." But you admit you have no proof, a reporter from the New York Times pressed. No recordings, no photographs, no alien technology, just your word. Correct, Marcus cut in. But consider this. If we were making this up, why would we? What do we gain? We've lost our credibility, we're being threatened, and our careers are destroyed. Who would choose that? People seeking attention, someone called out. It happens all the time. The press conference dissolved into chaos. Reporters talked over each other. Governor Holloway ended it early, looking furious. As Emma was led out by security, she heard him mutter, "This is a PR nightmare." But the chaos in Phoenix was nothing compared to what was happening globally. In the 4 days since they'd posted the video, the world had fractured into camps. The believers insisted the Palmer team was telling the truth and demanded governments prepare for the architect's arrival. The skeptics called it mass delusion and wanted the team arrested for causing panic. The undecided majority just wanted someone to tell them definitively what was real. Religious institutions were struggling. The Pope released a statement saying that other beings created humans, they were simply instruments of God's will. Islamic scholars debated whether the architects were angels or jinn. Hindu leaders pointed to ancient texts describing visitors from the sky. Evangelical Christians called it a demonic deception. Scientists were divided too. A small group of astronomers and physicists came forward saying they'd also detected anomalies that supported the Palmer team's claims, but the majority dismissed it as unscientific hysteria. Then, 6 days after Keeper's visit, something changed. Emma was back at the observatory when her computer pinged with an alert. The same signal they'd detected before Keeper's arrival was back. But this time, it was much stronger, and it wasn't alone. "Marcus, get in here," she shouted. Marcus ran to her office, followed by Jennifer and Tom. They crowded around the computer screen, watching multiple signals appear across the data. "There are 12 of them," Marcus breathed. 12 different signals, all in Earth orbit. "Could it be satellites?" Tom asked, hopefully. "No, these frequencies don't match anything we've ever seen." Emma's hands were shaking as she typed, "and they're arranging themselves in a pattern, a perfect circle around Earth." Jennifer pulled up a visual representation on another screen. The 12 signals formed a ring around the planet, evenly spaced like numbers on a clock. "They're here, the architects. They came early." "No," Marcus said, studying the readings. "These signatures are different from Keeper's ship, smaller. These might be monitoring stations." Emma grabbed the phone and called every major observatory she could think of. Most hung up on her, but a few listened. Within an hour, other facilities confirmed they were detecting the same signals. This changed everything. Emma and her team weren't crazy or lying. There really was something in orbit around Earth, something that hadn't been there a week ago. The scientific community erupted. Within hours, NASA held an emergency briefing confirming unidentified objects of unknown origin in Earth orbit. They refused to speculate on what they were, but the message was clear. Something was up there, and it wasn't human. Dr. Helen Wright, the NASA scientist who'd called them delusional on TV, was forced to issue a public apology. Emma should have felt vindicated, but she was too worried to care. The architects were watching, just like Keeper had said. That night, Emma got a call from an unexpected source, Dr. Raymond Cole, a physicist from MIT and one of the most respected scientists in the country. He was 73 years old and won 2 Nobel Prizes. "Dr. Carson," his gravelly voice came through the phone, "I owe you an apology. I was one of those who said you were mistaken. I was wrong." "Thank you, Dr. Cole, but we have bigger problems now." "Indeed, which is why I'm calling. I want to help. We need to form a response team. Scientists, linguists, anyone who might be useful if these architects make contact. Are you willing to lead it?" Emma almost laughed. "Lead it? I'm just an astronomer who happened to see something. There must be better people." "You're the only person who's actually spoken to one of them," Dr. Cole interrupted. "That makes you the expert, whether you like it or not. So I'll ask again, will you lead this?" Emma looked around her small office at the observatory. How had her simple life studying distant galaxies turned into this? "Yes," she said, "I'll do it."
Over the next week, a team assembled in Phoenix. Dr. Cole brought physicists and engineers. The government sent military advisors and diplomats. Universities sent linguists and anthropologists. Even a few religious scholars joined, trying to understand the spiritual implications. They worked out of a hastily converted conference center, setting up computers and communication equipment. Their goal? Figure out how to communicate with the architects and convince them humanity was worth keeping. But they faced an immediate problem. How do you talk to beings who are watching from orbit but not responding to any attempts at communication? The team tried everything. Radio signals in every frequency, mathematical sequences, visual displays using lights. Nothing got a response. The 12 objects in orbit remained silent, just watching. "It's like they're waiting for something," Jennifer said during one strategy session. "But what?" Dr. Cole studied the data they had on the objects. Keeper said the architects would test us. Perhaps this silence is the first test to see how we handle being observed. "Well, we're handling it terribly," Tom muttered, gesturing at a news broadcast on the wall screen. It showed riots in 3 major cities. People were panic buying supplies. Some were building bunkers. Others were partying like it was the end of the world. The stock market had crashed. Several governments had declared states of emergency. Religious extremists in multiple countries were committing acts of violence, claiming the architects were demons that needed to be fought. Emma watched the chaos unfold on the news and felt despair. This was the opposite of what Keeper had asked for. Humanity wasn't showing harmony, wisdom, or peace. They were showing fear, greed, and violence. Emma's daughter Lily called every night, crying. Kids at school were having nightmares. Parents were pulling children out of classes. David was considering moving them to his brother's ranch in Montana, away from the cities. "Maybe you should," Emma told him. "I don't know what's going to happen. At least out there she'd be safe." "Safe from what? Aliens we can't see or talk to? Emma, this whole situation is insane." "I know." On day 15, exactly halfway through Keeper's deadline, something happened. Emma was working late at the command center when every screen in the room suddenly went blank. Then, simultaneously, they all lit up with the same message in simple English. "Test 1 begins. You have 24 hours. The child knows the way." The message vanished as quickly as it appeared. Emma stared at the screens, her heart pounding. "What child?" Jennifer asked, her voice tight with worry. "What way?" Dr. Cole was already on his phone, calling contacts at NASA, the military, everywhere. But nobody else had received the message. It had appeared only on their screens at the command center. "The architects are communicating directly with us," Marcus said. "But what does it mean? What child?" Emma felt ice form in her stomach. "They've been watching everything. Every news broadcast, every social media post, every conversation. They know about our lives." "Your daughter," Tom said quietly. "Emma, they might mean Lily." "No." Emma stood up so fast her chair fell over. "No, they don't get to involve my daughter. She's 10 years old. This is between them and adults." But even as she said it, it didn't matter what she wanted. The architects didn't care about her feelings. They were testing humanity, and apparently that test involved a child. Her phone rang. It was David, and he sounded panicked. "Emma, something's wrong with Lily. She's acting strange. She says she can hear voices. She says they're telling her things." Emma's blood turned to ice. "I'm coming. Don't let her out of your sight." She grabbed her keys and ran for her car, her team calling after her. But she couldn't wait. Whatever the architects wanted with her daughter, she needed to get to Lily now. As she drove through the Phoenix night, Emma's mind raced.
Keeper had warned them the tests would be unexpected, but using a child? What kind of beings were the architects? And more terrifying, what happened if humanity failed? Emma broke every speed limit getting to David's house in North Phoenix. She ran through the door without knocking. David met her in the hallway, his face pale. "She's in her room," he said. "She won't let me in. She just keeps saying she has to listen to them." Emma ran upstairs. Lily's door was closed. She could hear her daughter's voice inside, speaking in a strange, rhythmic pattern. "Lily, baby, it's Mom. Can I come in?" The door opened. Lily stood there, and Emma's heart nearly stopped. Her eyes were different, unfocused, like she was seeing something far away, but she was smiling peacefully. "Hi, Mommy. The architects want to talk to you." "Lily, what's happening to you?" "They chose me because I'm young. Children see truth better than adults, they say. They've been showing me things." Emma pulled her daughter into a hug, but Lily felt distant, like only part of her was really there. "What things?" "The history of Earth, the real history." Lily pulled away and walked to her window. "Did you know humans weren't the first intelligent species here?" Emma exchanged a worried glance with David, who'd followed her upstairs. "What do you mean?" "The architects have moved species to Earth 5 times, Lily said in that strange, distant voice. "Each time they hoped that species would take care of the planet. Each time that species failed. Humans are attempt number 5. "Failed how?"
Lily turned from the window. Her eyes were still unfocused, but tears were running down her cheeks. "The first species destroyed themselves in war. The second polluted the oceans until nothing could live. The third ate everything, all the plants and animals, until the planet was bare. The fourth split into tribes that hunted each other to extinction." Emma felt sick. "And us, what are we doing?" "All of it," Lily whispered. "We war, we pollute, we consume, we hate. The architects are disappointed. They gave Earth to humans, hoping we'd be different, but we're making all the same mistakes." "Where is this information coming from?" David demanded. "How does a 10-year-old know this?" "They're showing me," Lily said simply. "In my mind, like videos, but more real. I can feel what those species felt, their fear when they realized they'd destroyed their only home." Emma's phone buzzed. It was Dr. Cole. She put it on speaker. "Emma, we're getting reports from around the world." His voice was urgent. 53 children, all around age 10, all saying the same thing. They're receiving visions from the architects. They're all saying humanity is on trial. 53 children, not just Lily. The architects were using children worldwide as their communication channel. "Why children?" Emma asked. Though she was speaking to Cole, Lily answered. "Because children haven't learned to lie to themselves yet. Adults have built walls in their minds, walls of belief and denial. Children's minds are open. We can see the truth without blocking it out." "What truth?" Emma knelt in front of her daughter. "Lily, what do they want from us?" Lily's eyes finally focused, looking directly at Emma. "They want us to solve the equation." "What equation?" "The one that every species fails. How to survive without destroying everything around you. How to have technology without war. How to have many people without ruining the planet. No species the architects have moved has ever solved it." From her phone, Dr. Cole's voice. "Emma, we need Lily and the other children brought to the command center. If they're receiving information from the architects, we need to understand what we're being tested on." "Absolutely not," Emma said firmly. "You're not turning my daughter into some kind of alien interpreter." But Lily put her small hand on Emma's arm. "Mommy, I need to go. They showed me something else, something important." "What?" "The solution. the way to pass the test. But it's not just in my head. All 53 of us have pieces of it. We need to come together and share what we've seen. That's the test, whether humanity can bring together children from different countries, different religions, different languages, and listen to them. David shook his head. This is crazy. She's 10 years old. She should be worrying about homework and sleepovers, not saving the world. I know, Daddy, Lily said softly. I'm scared too, but I have to do this. We all do. Within 12 hours, children were being flown to Phoenix from around the world. A girl named Yuki from Japan, a boy named Ahmed from Egypt, twin sisters named Elena and Sofia from Brazil, children from Russia, South Africa, Australia, India, Kenya. Every continent was represented. The command center had been transformed into a safe space for the kids. Comfortable chairs, snacks, toys in the corner. But the children didn't want toys. They sat together in a circle, holding hands, and began to speak. Emma, Marcus, Dr. Cole, and a team of translators listened as the children shared their visions. Each child had seen a different piece of Earth's history and a different part of the solution. Yuki had seen the first species, the ones who warred themselves to extinction. She explained how they had incredible technology, but used it to hurt each other instead of help. Ahmed had seen the second species, the polluters. He described how they made amazing factories and machines, but never thought about where the waste went. The third species were seen together, the consumers. They showed drawings of creatures that ate everything, never thinking about tomorrow. A boy named James from Canada had seen the fourth species, the dividers. They were intelligent and creative, but they couldn't stop seeing each other as enemies. Lily had seen humanity, all the ways they were repeating every mistake. But the children had each also seen a piece of the solution. When they put the pieces together, a picture emerged. The answer is balance, Lily said, speaking for the group. Every species failed because they went too far in one direction. Too much war, too much consumption, too much division. The architects want to see if humans can find the middle path. That's very philosophical, Dr. Cole said gently. But how do we demonstrate balance to beings watching from space? A girl named Priya from India spoke up. They wanted to see it in action. That's what the 24-hour test is about. They're going to present humanity with a crisis, a choice. Do we respond with our worst instincts or our best? What kind of crisis? Emma asked, though she was afraid of the answer. We don't know yet, Yuki said. They didn't show us that part, but it will be something that reveals humanity's true nature. The 24 hours ticked down. 12 hours, 6 hours, 3 hours. The world watched and waited. News channels broadcast continuously. Religious leaders prayed. Scientists calculated. Military forces stood ready, though no one knew what they were preparing for. Emma stayed with Lily and the other children, watching them sleep peacefully despite the weight of the world on their small shoulders. How had this happened? How had humanity's fate ended up in the hands of 53 10-year-olds? Within 1 hour left on the clock, every screen in the world went dark. Then a message appeared in every language simultaneously.
The choice. In orbit around your planet is a device that will terraform Earth. It will repair your damaged atmosphere, clean your polluted waters, and restore your dying ecosystems. But to activate it, you must shut down 90% of your current industrial capacity for 1 year. This means no cars, limited electricity, minimal manufacturing. Millions will face hardship, but your planet will heal. You have 24 hours to decide as a species. Activate the device or continue as you are. The message vanished. Emma stared at the screen, her mind reeling. It's a trap, Marcus said immediately. Either choice damns us. Activate it and we choose mass hardship, they'll say we're willing to let millions suffer. Don't activate it and we're choosing continued planetary damage, they'll say we value comfort over survival. No, Lily said, sitting up. The other children were waking too, all of them speaking in unison. It's not a trap, it's the test. There is no right answer. The architects want to see how you make the choice. Do you work together? Do you listen to all voices? Do you think of the future or just today? The decision matters less than how you reach it. Dr. Cole pulled up data on his tablet. The UN is calling an emergency session. Every nation gets a vote, but there are already protests on both sides. Environmental groups demanding we activate it. Industrial leaders saying it will cause global economic collapse. We have 24 hours to make a decision that will affect billions of people, Emma said. How is that even possible? It's not about the time, it's about showing we can come together. That's what the architects have never seen. Every other species fractured when tested. They fought over the choice instead of making it together. The children were right. Emma could already see it happening on the news. Countries blaming each other. Rich nations saying poor nations should sacrifice more. Poor nations saying rich nations caused the damage and should pay the price. Old arguments resurfacing. Old hatreds flaring up. This was the real test, not the choice itself, but whether humanity could make any choice together without tearing itself apart. We need to address the world, Emma said suddenly, not politicians or scientists, us, the people who actually met Keeper. We need to remind everyone what's at stake. Within hours, Emma stood before cameras again, but this time she wasn't alone. Lily and the other children stood with her. Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, and Dan stood with her. Dr. Cole and dozens of other scientists stood with her. Religious leaders from different faiths stood with her. She looked at the camera and spoke from her heart. I'm Dr. Emma Carson. 21 days ago, an alien named Keeper came to Earth and told me that we're being tested. Like many of you, I didn't want to believe it. It was too big, too impossible. But it's real, and now we face our test. The architects aren't asking us to be perfect. They know we can't be. They're asking if we can be better, better than the species who came before us, better than we've been to each other and to our planet. In the next 24 hours, we need to make a choice. But here's what I want you to know. There is no wrong answer. Activate the device or don't. The architects will judge us on how we decide, not what we decide. Can we talk instead of fight? Can we listen instead of shout? Can we think about others instead of just ourselves? These children, she gestured to Lily and the others, have been shown visions of species that failed this test. They fell apart when it mattered most. They let fear and greed and hatred win. We can be different. We must be different. So talk to your neighbors. Listen to people who disagree with you. Think about what kind of world you want to leave for these kids. And whatever we decide it together. The broadcast ended. Emma hugged Lily close, not knowing if she'd said the right thing or made everything worse. The world would decide now. The only question was, would humanity pass the test or become extinction number 5? The next 24 hours were the longest of Emma's life. The United Nations General Assembly met in emergency session. Every nation sent representatives, but this wasn't just a vote among politicians. The architects had been clear that humanity as a whole needed to decide. So countries held rapid referendums, online polls, town hall meetings. The results were chaotic and divided. Industrial nations like the United States and China leaned toward rejecting the device. Their economies depended on factories, cars, and constant production. A year of reduced capacity would mean job losses, food shortages, and economic disaster. Agricultural nations and island nations leaned toward activating it. They were already suffering from climate change, droughts, floods, rising seas. They saw the device as their only chance at survival. Emma watched the debates unfold on dozens of screens at the command center. People were passionate, angry, scared, but something was different from before. They were talking, really talking.
In Mumbai, business leaders sat down with environmental activists and actually listened to each other. In Chicago, factory workers and scientists held a joint meeting to discuss options. In Rio de Janeiro, young people and elderly people shared their hopes and fears for the planet's future. It wasn't perfect, there were still fights, still protests, but the children's message was spreading. The choice mattered less than making it together. Lily sat with the other children, all of them quiet and focused. Emma noticed they sometimes closed their eyes at the same time, like they were receiving synchronized messages from the architects. "What are they telling you?" Emma asked during a rare break.
"They're watching everything," Lily said. "Every conversation, every vote, every protest. They're impressed that we're talking more than fighting, but they're worried too." "Worried about what?" "That we won't reach agreement in time, that we'll tear ourselves apart trying to decide. Mommy, what happens if we can't make a choice, if time runs out and we're still arguing?" Emma didn't have an answer. She'd been wondering the same thing. With 12 hours left, a group of young leaders, people in their 20s and 30s from various countries, held a viral video conference. They called themselves Generation Tomorrow. A woman named Maya Chen from Singapore spoke first. "We're the ones who will inherit whatever decision is made, so we want to say this clearly. Activate the device. We'll handle the hardship. We'd rather struggle for 1 year than die on a dead planet in 50 years. A man named Carlos Mendoza from Mexico agreed. "My grandparents survived worse during wars and depressions. Humans are resilient. We can make it through 1 hard year if it means saving our home." But a woman named Sarah Brown from Texas disagreed. "Easy to say when you're young and healthy. What about people who need medical equipment that requires electricity? What about babies who need formula made in factories? What about people in cold climates who need heating? 1 year of hardship might mean millions dead." The debate raged on, but it was civil, passionate but respectful. People weren't just shouting past each other, they were engaging with the actual arguments. Dr. Cole pulled Emma aside. "I've been analyzing the architects' monitoring stations in orbit. They're recording everything, audio, video, even scanning our brainwave patterns. They're literally measuring human emotions and decisions in real time." "What are they finding?" "Fear, mostly, but also courage, selfishness, but also compassion. We're a mixed bag, Emma, which I suppose is the point. The question is whether our better angels outweigh our demons." With 6 hours left, religious leaders from around the world issued a joint statement. The Pope, the Dalai Lama, the Grand Mufti, the Chief Rabbi, Hindu gurus, and others who rarely agreed on anything all signed the same document. "Whatever we decide, we must do it in love, not fear. If we activate the device, we do it lovingly accepting shared sacrifice. If we reject it, we do it lovingly committing to fix our planet ourselves. But we will not let this test divide us. We are one human family." Emma felt tears on her cheeks. Maybe they had a chance after all. With 3 hours left, the votes were counted globally. The results came in. 51% in favor of activating the device, 49% against. "That's not a clear mandate," said Marcus, studying the numbers. "We're basically split right down the middle." "Which means neither side can claim moral superiority," Jennifer added. "We're all in this together, whether we like it or not." The UN called for a final vote among world leaders. Each nation's vote was weighted by population. Emma watched as country after country cast their ballot. Norway, activate. India, activate. Brazil, activate. Australia, reject. Russia, reject. United States, reject. On and on it went. The tally stayed close. With only 10 countries left to vote, the count was dead even. Emma's phone rang. It was the White House. President Catherine Mills wanted to speak with her personally. "Dr. Carson," the president's voice was tired but kind, "I need your honest opinion. You've spoken to one of these beings. You've seen your daughter communicate with them. What do they really want from us?" Emma thought about Keeper standing in the desert, about Lily's visions, about the 4 species that had failed before. They want to see if we can put aside our individual interests for collective survival. Every previous species couldn't do it. They each had a chance to save themselves and chose not to. The architects want to know if we're different. And are we? I don't know, Madam President, but I know we're trying harder than we ever have before. That has to count for something. There was a long pause. Thank you, Dr. Carson. That helps. The president hung up. Emma would never know what she said to her cabinet, but when the United States voted, they voted to activate the device. That was the tipping point. The remaining countries followed suit. When the final tally came in, 58% of the world's nations had voted to activate the device. Emma felt the air go out of the room. They'd made a choice. Humanity had actually come together and made a choice. But would it be the right one? With 1 hour left before the deadline, a new message appeared on all screens. You have chosen. Now prove you mean it. One representative of your species must go to the device in orbit and activate it manually. This will be the first human to leave your planet. Choose wisely. You have 1 hour. The room erupted in chaos. Who should go? An astronaut? A scientist? A world leader? It should be me, Emma said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. I was the first to meet Keeper. I've been the voice of this whole situation. It should be me. Absolutely not, David said. He'd stayed at the command center to be near Lily. You're a mother. Lily needs you. But the world needs this more, Emma said softly. Lily, I'm sorry, baby. But Lily was shaking her head, smiling that distant smile again. No, Mommy, it's not you they want. Then who? All 53 children spoke at once. All of us. Emma felt her heart stop. What? The architects want the children to activate it, Dr. Cole said, understanding dawning on his face. Of course, it's symbolic. The future generation taking control of their fate. You can't send 53 10-year-olds into space, David shouted. That's insane.
But Lily walked up to her parents, calm and certain. We have to, Daddy. It's the final test. Can humanity trust its children with its future? Can adults let go of control and let us help? That's what they're really asking. Within 30 minutes, the children were aboard a shuttle that had literally appeared outside the command center. It was clearly alien technology, smooth and silver with no visible seams or engines. Emma hugged Lily so tight she thought she might break her daughter's ribs. I love you so much. I love you too, Mommy. I'll be back soon, I promise. The children boarded the craft. Emma, Marcus, and hundreds of others watched from the ground as it rose silently into the sky, faster and faster, until it was just a point of light heading toward orbit. Cameras on the craft broadcast everything. The world watched as 53 children from different countries, different backgrounds, different beliefs worked together in the alien ship. They figured out the controls through trial and error, laughing when they made mistakes, cheering when they got something right. They reached the terraform device, a massive sphere floating in space, covered in patterns of light. The children held hands as Lily, representing them all, pressed the activation sequence. The device lit up brighter than the sun. Even from Earth, people could see it, a brilliant point of light in orbit that pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Then the children's ship began its descent back to Earth. But something was wrong. The ship's trajectory is off, a NASA engineer called out, panic in his voice. It's coming in too steep, too fast. Emma's heart stopped. The craft was plummeting toward Earth, out of control. On the broadcast, the children weren't panicking. They were holding hands, singing softly together. Someone do something, Emma screamed. The craft was 15 miles from impact when suddenly it stopped, just stopped mid-air, hovering impossibly. A new message appeared. Final test passed. You made the choice together. You trusted your future to your children. You showed love in the face of fear. Humanity has proven worthy. The device is yours. Use it wisely. We will not return.
The children's ship landed gently in the desert. They ran out, unharmed, laughing and crying and hugging their families. Emma held Lily tight, tears streaming down her face. They'd done it. Somehow, impossibly, humanity had passed the test. But as the celebration began, Emma couldn't shake one thought. The architects said they wouldn't return. That meant Earth's fate was truly in human hands now, and that was more terrifying than any alien judgment. 3 days after the terraform device activated, the honeymoon period ended. The device was working exactly as promised. Satellite images showed the ozone layer repairing itself at an accelerated rate. Ocean cleanup had begun, with mysterious energy fields breaking down plastics and pollutants at the molecular level. Even the air quality in major cities was improving dramatically. But the cost was becoming clear. 90% of industrial capacity had shut down overnight. Factories stood empty. Assembly lines stopped. The few facilities still operating were devoted to essential goods, food, medicine, basic clothing. Everything else ceased. In wealthy countries, people adapted with difficulty. No new phones, no streaming services, limited internet bandwidth. Rolling blackouts meant electricity only a few hours per day. Gas rationing made cars useless except for emergencies. But in poor countries, the situation was desperate. Emma watched news reports from her apartment in Phoenix. A hospital in Nigeria was out of medicine because pharmaceutical manufacturing had halted. A village in Bangladesh was flooding because the pumps that kept water out had no power. A refugee camp in Jordan was running out of food because the complex logistics chain that supplied it had collapsed. "We voted for this," David said bitterly, sitting across from Emma. Lily was asleep in her room, exhausted from her ordeal in space. "We chose to save everyone in the long run," Emma replied, but her voice lacked conviction. "Tell that to the mother in Nigeria watching her child die because we shut down factories." Emma had no answer. The architects gave them a device to save Earth, but they hadn't provided instructions for implementing it humanely. That responsibility fell to humanity alone. The UN convened daily crisis meetings, how to distribute limited resources fairly, which industries to keep running, how to prevent complete societal collapse. Emma became an unofficial advisor to the UN committee, not because she had answers, but because she was the closest thing to an expert on what the architects wanted. Though truth be told, she had no idea what they wanted anymore. Mayor Patricia called from Redfield. "Emma, we have a situation. A group of ranchers is threatening to restart the local power plant. They say their cattle are dying without proper irrigation, and they won't wait for the UN to figure things out." "Patricia, they can't do that if everyone starts defying the shutdown." "I know, but try telling that to a man watching his life's work die. The architects aren't here anymore. No one's monitoring us. What's stopping people from saying to hell with the agreement and doing what they need to survive?" It was a fair question. The architects had left. The terraform device was autonomous, working on its own. There was no alien enforcement, just humanity's promise to itself. And humans, Emma was learning, were very good at breaking promises when things got hard. Sheriff Dan reported similar problems across Arizona. Desperate people doing desperate things, looting, hoarding, violence. The thin veneer of civilization was cracking under pressure. Then came the international incidents.
China announced they were restarting key manufacturing sectors, claiming the agreement didn't specify which 10% of industry could continue. Other countries protested, saying China was cheating. China responded that they'd only agreed to a general shutdown, not to give other nations veto power over their economic decisions. Russia announced similar intentions, so did Brazil. The United States threatened sanctions. Europe threatened sanctions. Everyone was threatening everyone. "It's falling apart," Marcus said during an emergency meeting at the command center. Most of the team had dispersed, but the core group, Emma, Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, Dr. Cole, still met daily. 3 weeks, that's all it took for the alliance to crumble. The architects tested whether we could make a decision together, Dr. Cole said grimly. They didn't test whether we could stick to it. Maybe that was intentional. Emma's phone buzzed constantly, requests for interviews, for statements, for her to somehow fix everything. How was she supposed to fix this? She was just an astronomer. Lily emerged from her room, looking pale. She'd been quiet since returning from space, processing what she'd experienced up there. "Mommy, I need to tell you something." "What is it, baby?" "The architects showed me more than just the history. They showed me the future, too. Different possible futures, depending on what we chose." Emma pulled Lily close. "What did you see?" "I saw what happens if we break the agreement. The device has safeguards. If humanity collectively abandons the deal, if enough countries restart their industries, the device shuts down permanently. All the progress we've made gets locked in place, but no more healing happens. Earth stays damaged, just not quite as damaged as before." "Did they tell you what enough countries means?" "No, but I think we're close to finding out." That night, massive protests erupted in dozens of cities worldwide. 2 opposing groups, one demanding governments honor the agreement despite the hardship, the other demanding governments put their own people first. In Seoul, the protests turned violent. 20 people died in clashes between the 2 factions. Similar scenes played out in Cairo, Mexico City, Paris, and Mumbai. "This is the real test," Jennifer said, watching the news footage. "Not whether we could make a choice, but whether we could live with the consequences." Emma thought about the 4 species that had failed before humans. They hadn't failed because they made the wrong choice. They failed because they couldn't hold together when things got hard. They fractured, divided, turned on each other. Humanity was doing the same thing. President Mills called Emma again. "Dr. Carson, I need your help. I'm speaking to the nation tomorrow night. I need to give people hope, a reason to keep faith with the agreement, but I'm struggling to find the words. You met one of them. You spoke to Keeper. What would you say?" Emma thought about that night in the desert. Keeper had stood there, calm and patient, explaining that Earth was never meant for humans, but had become their home anyway, that the architects wanted to see if humanity deserved to keep it. Tell them that home is worth fighting for. Tell them that every previous species failed because they gave up when it got hard, because they chose immediate comfort over long-term survival. Tell them that these next 11 months will be the hardest of our lives, but if we make it through together, we get to keep our planet, not just for ourselves, but for our children's children. Tell them that Lily and 53 other kids risked their lives in space because they believed in humanity's future. The question is, do we believe it too? The president was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you, Dr. Carson. That's exactly what I needed to hear." The president's speech the next night was broadcast globally. She was honest about the hardships, acknowledged the suffering, but called on humanity's better nature. "We are the 5th species given this chance. 4 others failed, but we have something they didn't. We know what failure looks like. We've seen the warnings. We've been given a glimpse of what's at stake. These next 11 months are our trial by fire. We either emerge stronger, more united, and more committed to our planet, or we become extinction number 5. The choice is ours. Every single day, with every decision we make, we choose." The speech had an effect, but it wasn't enough. The fractures continued. 4 days later, Russia fully restarted its industrial capacity in defiance of the agreement. China followed hours later. Brazil, Saudi Arabia, India announced they would restart if others were doing it. "It's a domino effect," Dr. Cole said, his face ashen. "Once one country breaks ranks, others feel justified doing the same." Emma watched the terraform device from the observatory's telescope. It was still working, still glowing in orbit, but for how much longer? Lily touched Emma's arm.
"Mommy, I can feel it. The device is monitoring the agreement. It knows what's happening. It's deciding." Deciding what? Whether to give up on us. Emma felt cold terror grip her. How long do we have? Hours, maybe days. The threshold is close. If one more major nation breaks the agreement. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Emma looked at Marcus, at Jennifer, at Tom, at Dr. Cole. They'd started this journey together in the desert 24 days ago. 5 people who'd seen something impossible and tried to warn the world. "We need to do something," Emma said. "One last push, one final message. If we're going to fail, I want us to fail knowing we tried everything." "What are you thinking?" Marcus asked. Emma pulled out her phone. "I'm thinking it's time for the children to speak again. If anyone can save us, it's them." Within hours, all 53 children who'd activated the device were on a live global broadcast. Lily stood at the center, speaking for all of them. "We are 10 years old," she began. "We don't understand economics or politics, but we understand something important. Earth is our home, the only home we'll ever have. When we were in space, looking down at our planet, we didn't see countries or borders. We saw one blue world, beautiful and fragile and small. That's what the architects saw too. That's what they wanted us to understand." Ahmed spoke next. "The architects aren't here anymore. They left the device because they believed we could do this. They believed in us even if we don't believe in ourselves." Yuki continued. "These 11 months are hard, we know. Our families are struggling too. My father lost his job. Sophia's grandmother needs medicine we can't get. James's town is running out of food. We're all suffering. But this is temporary. Permanent suffering is what happens if we quit now." All 53 children spoke together. "We are the future. We're the ones who will inherit whatever Earth becomes. Please, we're begging you, don't give up on our future. We activated that device in space. We trusted you to honor the decision. Please trust us when we say it's worth it. We're worth it. Earth is worth it. Hold on just a little longer." The broadcast ended. Tears streamed down Emma's face. The children had given everything to save humanity. Would it be enough? For 3 agonizing days, the world held its breath. Russia's president met with his advisors. China's chairman consulted his council. India's prime minister addressed parliament. On the 4th day, Russia announced they would honor the agreement for the remaining 10 months. Within hours, other nations fell in line. Emma collapsed in her chair, crying with relief. They'd pulled back from the brink, barely, but they'd done it. The crisis point had passed. Humanity had stared into the abyss and chosen to step back. But the fight wasn't over. 10 months remained. 10 months of hardship, sacrifice, and testing humanity's resolve every single day. The question was, could they hold out that long? 9 months into the agreement, Emma stood in her apartment watching the sunrise over Phoenix. The city looked different now, quieter, darker at night, but also cleaner. The perpetual smog that had hung over the valley for decades was gone. Stars were visible in the city sky for the first time in 50 years. Humanity had survived 9 months of the hardest year in modern history. 3 months remained. The world had transformed in unexpected ways. Without constant industrial noise, people heard nature again, birds singing, wind rustling through trees. Without commutes, families ate dinner together. Without entertainment streaming 24/7, neighbors talked on porches like they had generations ago. But the suffering was real too. Emma saw it every day. Food was rationed. Medicine was precious. The hospital in Phoenix operated on generator power 4 hours a day. People wore the same clothes for months. Luxury goods were a distant memory. Lily was different now. The encounter with the architects had changed her. She was still 10, still played with friends, still did homework, but there was wisdom in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She'd seen things no child should have to see. "Mommy, look!" called Lily from the window. "The mountains are green again." She was right. The desert mountains around Phoenix were covered in vegetation for the first time in decades. The terraform device was working better than anyone had expected. Earth was healing fast. Emma's phone rang. It was Dr. Cole. "Turn on the news. You need to see this." Emma switched on the TV. They had power this morning for 2 hours. The screen showed Antarctic footage. Scientists were gathered around massive ice cores, looking astonished. "The ice sheets are stabilizing. Not just stabilizing, they're growing again. At this rate, we'll recover ice lost over the past 30 years within 5 years. It's miraculous." Similar reports came from around the world. The Amazon rainforest was regrowing at accelerated rates. Coral reefs were recovering. Even extinct species were somehow reappearing, though scientists couldn't explain how. "The device is doing more than just cleaning," Marcus said during their daily check-in call. "It's actively repairing ecosystems. The architects gave us technology centuries beyond our understanding." But 3 months from the finish line, new problems emerged. A group calling themselves the Sovereigns had formed across multiple countries. They argued that 1 year was enough, that humanity had proved its point, and that continuing the shutdown was unnecessary suffering. Their leader was a billionaire named Richard Graves, who'd lost his fortune when his tech companies shut down. "We completed the test," Graves said in viral videos. "The planet is healing. We don't need to torture ourselves for 3 more months. The architects are gone. They're not here to grade us anymore. We can restart our economies tomorrow and still keep the environmental gains." The movement grew rapidly. People were exhausted, desperate for normalcy. The Sovereign's message was seductive. "You've suffered enough. You can stop now." Emma watched the Sovereign's rallies with growing alarm. They were well-funded, well-organized, and spreading fast. Within 2 weeks, they had tens of millions of followers. President Mills called an emergency meeting with Emma and the core team. "How do we counter this? They're not technically wrong. The architects didn't specify we had to complete the full year. We could restart now." "But we made a commitment," Jennifer argued. "We agreed to 1 year. Breaking that promise sends a message that human agreements mean nothing." "To who?" Graves appeared on a screen. He'd been patched into the meeting. "The architects are gone. This isn't about impressing aliens anymore. It's about practical reality. Our people are suffering. We have the power to end that suffering. Why wouldn't we?"
Emma spoke carefully. "Because the suffering has a purpose. We're learning to live differently, more sustainably. If we restart too early, we might just fall back into old patterns." "That's easy for you to say," Graves shot back. "You're not watching your employees lose their homes. You're not seeing children go hungry because supply chains collapsed. How much suffering is acceptable to you, Dr. Carson, in the name of environmental purity?" It was a fair question, and Emma hated that she didn't have a good answer. Lily had been listening quietly. Now she spoke up. "Mr. Graves, may I ask you something?" Graves looked surprised, but nodded. "Of course." "Do you have children?" "I have a son. He's 12. "What kind of world do you want him to grow up in?" "A world where he has opportunities, freedom, a future." "But what kind of planet?" Lily pressed. "Does it matter if he has opportunities if the planet can't support him? The architects showed me what happens when species choose short-term comfort over long-term survival. They always think we've done enough. They always think we can go back to normal now, and they're always wrong." Graves was quiet. Then, "You're 10 years old. What do you know about economics, about feeding billions of people, about keeping civilization running?" "I know what I saw in space," Lily said simply. "I know that Earth is small and precious, and we're lucky to have it,
and I know that 3 more months of sacrifice is nothing compared to losing it forever." The meeting ended inconclusively. The sovereigns continued to grow. 2 months remained. Then, with 6 weeks left, disaster struck. The terraform device stopped working. It happened suddenly. Satellites detected the device in orbit going dark. Scientists confirmed it. The healing processes had halted. Ice sheets stopped growing. Reforestation stalled. Ocean cleanup ceased. Panic spread globally. Had they broken the agreement somehow? Was this punishment? What had gone wrong? Emma rushed to the observatory with her team. They pointed every instrument at the device in orbit, desperate for answers. For 3 days they found nothing. Then Lily woke up screaming. Emma ran to her daughter's room. Lily was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, tears streaming down her face. "They're testing us again. The architects. They didn't really leave. They've been watching this whole time." "What are you talking about?" "The device stopping. It's not broken. They turned it off deliberately. They want to see what we do when we think the deal is over. Do we give up? Do we restart our industries? Or do we keep our promise even when we think no one's watching?" Emma felt ice in her veins. "So this is the final test?" "Yes, and Mommy, we're failing. The sovereigns are using this as proof that the agreement doesn't matter. Countries are preparing to restart. Everyone thinks the deal is broken, so why honor it?" Emma called the President Mills. "We need to tell people the truth. This is part of the test." "How do you know that?" the President demanded. "My daughter. The architects communicated with her before. They're doing it again." "Dr. Carson, with all respect, I can't make global policy decisions based on what your 10-year-old says she's hearing in her head." "Then call the other children, the other 53 who went to space. Ask them if they're having visions too." The President did. Every single one of the 53 children reported the same thing. The architects were still watching. The device hadn't failed. It was deliberately shut down to test humanity's commitment. But believing it and convincing the world were different things. Richard Graves held a massive rally in New York. Over 1 million people attended. "The device is broken," he shouted to the crowd. "Our sacrifice was for nothing. The architects failed us, or we failed them. It doesn't matter. What matters is we're suffering for no reason. It's time to go back to work. It's time to rebuild. It's time to stop this madness." The crowd roared approval. Similar rallies happened in dozens of cities. The sovereign's message was winning. Emma appeared on every news program that would have her. "Please listen to the children. They're telling us this is the final test. We have 6 more weeks left. Just 6 weeks. We can make it." "But the device is off," reporters challenged. "Even if we finish the year, what good does it do if the planet stops healing?" Emma had no answer. She could only ask people to have faith, but faith was in short supply. With 4 weeks left, 15 countries officially announced they were restarting their industries. The agreement was collapsing. Emma sat in the observatory defeated. They'd come so close, 9 months of sacrifice, and it was all falling apart in the final stretch. Lily came to sit beside her. "Mommy, I have to tell you something the architects showed me that I haven't told anyone." "What is it?" "If we fail this test, if we restart before the year is done, the device doesn't turn on ever. Earth stays partially healed, but it never finishes. And more importantly, the architects classify humanity as a failed experiment. They won't terminate us, but they'll mark Earth as a lost cause forever." "Forever?" "They check on their experiments every 500 years. If we fail now, they won't check again for 5 centuries. By then, if humanity hasn't learned, they'll find a dead planet. But if we pass this test, if we make it 6 more weeks, they'll return in 50 years instead. They'll give us another chance to prove ourselves, maybe even share more technology with us." Emma stared at her daughter. "Why didn't you tell anyone this before?"
Because the architects didn't want me to. They wanted to see if we'd keep our word just because we gave our word, not because of rewards or punishments. But now, with everything falling apart, they said I could share the full truth. Emma stood up. We need to tell everyone, right now. Within hours, all 53 children were on another global broadcast. This time, they revealed the full stakes. Complete the year, and humanity got another evaluation in 50 years with potential benefits. Quit early, and Earth was on its own for 5 centuries. It's like school, Ahmed explained to the camera. If you quit a test halfway through, you fail. If you finish it, even if you don't get a perfect score, you get another chance. The message spread rapidly. The narrative shifted from suffering for no reason to, we're almost there, just hold on a little longer. But the sovereigns weren't backing down. Richard Graves issued his own statement. So the architects want to test us? Fine, here's my answer. Humanity doesn't need aliens to judge us. We don't need permission to take care of ourselves. We proved we could sacrifice when necessary. That's enough. I'm restarting my companies in 1 week, whether the agreement continues or not. The world held its breath. Would others follow Graves? Would the alliance hold? Emma realized they needed something more than words. They needed proof that humanity could finish what it started. She had an idea, a crazy idea, but maybe crazy was what the moment required. What if, she said to her team, we asked every person on Earth to make a visible commitment to finishing the year, something public, something undeniable, something the architects could see from space? Like what? Tom asked. Emma pulled up a map of the world. Lights. We have power for limited hours each day. What if on the same night, everyone in the world who supports completing the agreement turned on one light for 1 minute? The architects would see it from orbit. So would everyone else on Earth. It would be a visible demonstration that most of humanity wants to continue. Dr. Cole looked thoughtful. It would require enormous coordination, every time zone, every country, all at the same moment. The children can organize it, Lily said. We have social media accounts. People listen to us. We can spread the message. For the next week, the 53 children worked tirelessly. They posted videos in multiple languages. They coordinated with youth groups worldwide. They set a date and time, midnight Greenwich Mean Time, exactly 3 weeks before the year ended. The plan was simple. If you believed humanity should complete the agreement, turn on a light for 1 minute at midnight GMT in your time zone. The sovereigns mocked the idea. Childish symbolism, Graves called it. Lights won't feed starving people or fix broken economies. But the children kept pushing. Young people around the world picked up the message. Climate activists, environmental groups, religious organizations, all spread the word. The night arrived. Emma stood outside the observatory with her team, with Lily, with David. They held flashlights, waiting for midnight. At exactly midnight Phoenix time, which was 8 p.m. GMT, they'd all agreed to participate when it hit midnight in any time zone. They turned on their lights. 1 minute, that's all it was. 60 seconds of light. But around the world, billions of people did the same. The effect, visible from space, was stunning. Satellites captured images of Earth lighting up zone by zone as midnight rolled across the planet. Even with reduced power, the message was clear. Humanity wanted to finish what it started. The images went viral. The visual proof of billions of people lighting the night sky in unity became the most powerful message of the entire year. Richard Graves held a press conference the next day. He looked tired. I've seen the images, I've read the messages. I still think we're punishing ourselves unnecessarily, but I won't restart my companies, not until the year is complete. The people have spoken. Emma felt tears of relief. They'd made it. With 3 weeks to go, humanity was going to finish the test. But the architects had one more surprise in store. On the final day of the 12th month, Emma awoke before dawn. Today was the day. 1 year ago,
keeper landed in the desert and changed everything. She dressed quietly, not wanting to wake Lily, who was sleeping in after another late night coordinating with the other children. Emma looked at her daughter and felt overwhelming pride. Lily had saved humanity, not by herself, but she'd played her part. Emma drove to the observatory alone, watching the sun rise over the desert. The landscape looked different now, greener, more alive. A year of healing had transformed Arizona from brown desert to something approaching a sustainable ecosystem. When she arrived at the observatory, the entire team was already there. Marcus, Jennifer, Tom, Sheriff Dan, Dr. Cole, Mayor Patricia, and dozens of others who'd been part of this journey. They'd all come to watch what would happen when the deadline hit. At exactly noon Arizona time, 12 months to the minute since Keeper's visit, the terraform device in orbit activated again. But this time it was different. Instead of just the blue glow, the lights lit up in multiple colors: blue, green, gold, silver. The lights pulsed in a pattern that was almost musical. Then Keeper's voice appeared in Emma's mind again. She gasped. The others looked at her, and she realized they were hearing it too. Humanity of Earth, you have completed the test. Around the world, everyone heard the message simultaneously. Billions of people stopped what they were doing to listen to the voice in their heads. 1 year ago, I came to warn you. I told you Earth was never meant for humans, and that the architects were returning to judge your species. I am pleased to say you have passed. Relief flooded through Emma. They'd done it, actually done it. You are the first species to complete the full agreement, Keeper continued. 4 others failed at various points, but humanity persisted. You sacrificed, you unified, you listened to your children, you proved you could change. The terraform device will remain active. Earth will continue healing. In 50 years, the architects will return, not to judge, but to offer guidance, technology, knowledge. If you maintain the progress you've made, you will be invited to join the community of species that have passed this test. Earth will no longer be isolated. You will have neighbors among the stars. Emma felt chills. First contact, real, lasting contact with other civilizations, but not for 50 years, not in her lifetime. I must clarify something, Keeper said. I told you Earth was never meant for humans. This was not entirely true. It was a test within the test, to see if you would fight for your world, even if you believed it wasn't truly yours. You did. That shows true belonging. Earth is yours now. You have earned it through your choices this year. Emma started crying. They'd earned Earth, not been given it, not stolen it, but earned it through sacrifice and unity. The device will continue operating indefinitely, but it will not do everything. You must continue the work yourselves. The agreement doesn't end today. It transforms. You have learned to live with less. Now learn to live sustainably with more. Slowly restart your industries, but do it wisely. Use what you've learned this year. The architects will be watching, even from afar. One final message. You are not alone in the universe. You never were, but now you know it. Let that knowledge make you humble, curious, and hopeful. The stars are full of wonders. Someday you will see them. The voice faded. The device in orbit pulsed one final time, then settled into a steady, gentle glow. For a long moment, nobody spoke. They just stood there, processing what they'd heard. Then the celebration began. Around the world, people poured into streets, cheering, crying, hugging strangers. A year of hardship was over. Humanity had passed the test. President Mills gave a speech from the White House. Today, we are not Americans or Chinese or Brazilians. Today, we are humans who proved we could put our planet before ourselves. We have earned our place on Earth and our place among the stars. Let's never forget the lessons of this year. Emma held a smaller celebration at the observatory. Friends, family, colleagues gathered. Lily and the other children who lived nearby came. Even Richard Graves sent a video message. I was wrong. The test was necessary. The sacrifice was worth it. I'm proud to have been part of humanity's success, even if I resisted along the way. As the sun set, Emma stood with Lily, looking up at the stars. The terraform device was visible as a bright point of light in the evening sky. "Mommy, do you think we'll really meet the architects in 50 years?" Emma asked. "You will. You'll be 60 years old. I probably won't live to see it, but you will. Will we be ready?" Emma thought about the year they'd just survived, the sacrifices, the arguments, the near failures. "I don't know, but we'll try. That's what humans do. We try." The months that followed brought gradual recovery. Industries slowly restarted, but under new regulations developed during the shutdown year. Manufacturing became more efficient, less wasteful. Energy sources shifted towards renewables that had been developed during the crisis. Transportation reduced dramatically. People learned they didn't need to travel as much as they thought. The economic system rebuilt itself around sustainability rather than endless growth. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems, still poverty, still conflicts, but something fundamental had shifted. Humanity had looked into the abyss of its own potential extinction and chosen survival over comfort. Emma published a book about the year, titled The Fifth Species: How Humanity Earned Earth. It became a global bestseller, but more importantly, it became required reading in schools. Children grew up learning about the year of sacrifice as a turning point in human history. The 53 children who'd activated the device became known as the future generation. They grew up under intense public scrutiny, but they handled it with grace. They used their influence to promote environmental causes, peaceful cooperation, and preparation for eventual contact with other species. Lily went to college and studied xenobiology, the study of alien life. She wanted to be ready when the architects returned. "Someone has to understand them," she told Emma. "Might as well be me." Marcus, Jennifer, and Tom continued their work at the observatory, now studying the signals from the 12 monitoring stations still in orbit. The stations remained active, silent watchers, making sure humanity kept its promise. Dr. Cole retired from MIT and devoted himself to writing about the philosophical implications of humanity's place in the universe. His work influenced a new generation of thinkers who grappled with what it meant to be the fifth species, the fifth attempt at intelligent life on Earth. Sheriff Dan went back to managing Redfield, but the town had changed. Tourism flourished as people came to see the landing site where Keeper had appeared. The small desert town became a pilgrimage destination for people wanting to reflect on humanity's test. 5 years after the test, the United Nations established Remembrance Day on the anniversary of Keeper's first visit. Every year, people around the world took a moment to remember the year of sacrifice and recommit to the lessons learned.
Emma continued working at the observatory, training the next generation of astronomers. She was 50 now, her hair graying, her body slower. But her passion for the stars hadn't diminished. If anything, it had grown stronger. One night, 10 years after the test, Emma was doing her usual observation routine when she detected something unusual. A signal, brief, almost imperceptible, but definitely there. She tracked it, her heart racing. It wasn't from the monitoring stations. It was from deep space, from the direction Keeper's ship had gone. The signal was simple. 3 pulses, a pause, then 3 more pulses, repeating. Emma worked through the night trying to decode it. Finally, at dawn, she understood. The 3 pulses represented Earth. The pause represented the passage of time. The second 3 pulses represented contact. It was a message. Still watching, still hopeful. See you in 40 years. Emma laughed through tears. The architects hadn't forgotten. They were keeping track. In 40 years, within Lily's lifetime, they would return. Emma immediately called Lily, who was now 20, working on her PhD in xenobiology at MIT. They sent a message, Emma told her daughter. Just 3 pulses, but it's definitely communication. What did it say? Asked Lily excitedly. That they're still watching, and they're still hopeful about us. Lily was quiet for a moment. Mom, we're going to make them proud. When they come back, they're going to find a humanity that's even better than the one that passed their test. I know you will, baby. I won't be there to see it, but you will, and you'll represent everything we learned that year. As Emma hung up, she looked out at the sunrise over the Arizona desert. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the solar system, beyond the visible stars, the architects were watching. Keeper was watching. Humanity had earned Earth through a year of sacrifice. Now they had to keep earning it every day for the rest of their existence. Emma thought about the 4 species that had failed before. She would never know what they looked like or how they lived, but she knew they'd been given the same chance humanity had received, and they'd given up when things got hard. Humans almost gave up too. They'd come within days, hours even, of abandoning the agreement, but they'd held on, barely, imperfectly, but they'd held on. That made all the difference. The terraform device still glowed in orbit, a reminder of what had been won and what could be lost. Earth was healing, humanity was learning, and somewhere, 40 years into the future, there would be another test. But this time, humanity would be ready. Emma turned off the observatory lights and headed home. The sun was up. A new day had begun. On Earth, the planet that had never been meant for humans, but that humans had earned anyway, life continued. Different than before. Better than before. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson any species could learn. Your home is worth fighting for, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when giving up would be easier, especially then. Because in the end, that's what separates the species that survive from the species that don't. Not technology or intelligence or strength, but the simple, stubborn refusal to quit when the universe tests you. Humanity had passed its test. Now came the real work, proving they deserved to pass. And somewhere in the stars, the architects smiled. Save this to remember it and share it with someone who needs to hear it.